The following video contains miniatures being painted that are not from a board game. Painter discretion is advised.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good day, and I hope you're watching this on Halloween because I've got a spooky miniature for you. And I actually gave myself a challenge that I would have this thing painted in 2 days. Most people would probably look at the picture of this and say, how long did this take you? It must have taken you weeks or months even, and others have said, hey, this has taken me weeks or months. How did you get this done? Well, simple, life threw me a journey, and I'm on this one right now. But it has been quite a journey, and I was able to paint this beautiful model here of the Black Coach from Age of Sigmar's Nighthaunt army. This is part of my army that I'm building. I know this is not a board game miniature, but I want to get this out there to show that even someone like me who paints just little miniatures can have the time to work on a large miniature like this and actually get it done in a little bit of time. And I use speed paints, I use Army Painter War Paints Fanatics, I use a lot of Army Painter products. I didn't use anything Citadel on this at all because I love the War Paints and the speed paints from Army Painter, and I didn't use any air paints or anything like that. I really went with a brush. And originally, when I posted some of the pics when I built it, people were like, oh, I hope you left the pieces unglued, like the major areas. And I was like, no, why? And they said, well, good luck painting all that. And yes, it was a challenge painting this. Anyways, we're going to get into the video right now. I hope you enjoy. Also, if you would like to see more Age of Sigmar videos, other tabletop games, they will be on the channel, but for members only, exclusive to members. Or you can head on over to the Patreon page and you'll be able to actually purchase the video itself like a one-time, or you can also become a patron there and have access to all those as well. I want to keep this channel focused on board game stuff, which is what you guys liked, but I'm going to do some stuff on the side, but that is going to be now for members only. So if you're interested in how I paint those, because I do use different techniques than everybody else out there for Warhammer and for other tabletop games. So again, thank you very much, guys. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get to the table and start painting the Black Coach. All right, so let's get started painting on this giant miniature. I primed it all in a matte gray and then gave it a white ink zenithal to give it more of a lighter area, because I'm going to be using a lot of speed paints on this to speed the process of painting this giant thing. Now, as I said in the beginning, it only took me 2 days, literally. I don't know how many hours. I wish I had calculated it. I wish I had timed it, because I would have liked to see how much time it actually take me to do this bigature. But we're starting off with some brownish red, a burnished red, sorry, and we're putting this on the cab or the hearse part of the coach, or the coach part where the coffin is in anyways. And I'm doing it quite different than what the artwork was. I have some similarities when it comes later on to the horses and stuff, but I really want to give my own take on this and to follow a bit more of how my Nighthaunt army is going to look like. You saw in my other Nighthaunt video I used Pac-Man as a basis for my ghosts. It won't be that much in here, but it will show up in other ones. And if you ever want to see those, like I said, you can always join and become a member of the YouTube channel here and support my crazy hobbies. Anyways, so I'm using some dark wood as the next color here. We're getting the what would you call it, the hitches for the horses here at the front, and as well as all the cabin, everything that's pretty much wood right now is going to be covered with this. I want it to be a different color than the actual like hearse area where the coffin is. I actually do the coffin in a different kind of color as well, just to have a variety as well, so not everything is just the same dark wood or the same things. But as you can see already, this is where all the nooks and crannies are going to get interesting with the paintbrush. And yes, there are places that I missed. There's spots that still showed up at the end. But I saw them, I came back to my speed paint, fixed them as much as I could. And to tell you the truth, if you're looking at this thing with a magnifying glass, then you might see some white spots left or some gray areas. But I'm pretty sure I got at least, I'd say a good 97% painted, even though it is all glued together. And to be honest, I should have
caught on to that it was going to be easier to paint in pieces, because in the instructions it really put a check mark when you were done a certain area, and it was much easier to probably paint it that way. But I didn't listen to that, and I just glued everything together. It's my head working in mysterious ways saying, hey, you got to build this thing first and then paint it, just like everything else you do. No, I've learned now, when I've got a big miniature like this to build, keep it in pieces, paint it all, glue it after. All right, so you saw a couple other colors I used. I even got the little mummy, whatever's in that coffin there painted up as well. There is a lid that you can put on. You could have glued it on. I could have done that. I did prime it in gray. I didn't give it any kind of like zenithal on it. I'm not going to cover it. I like showing the little guy inside. It's kind of neat. Makes it a little bit more interesting. And as you can see with the slaughter red right now, I'm actually trying to get inside the coffin as much as possible to get the lining done. Again, that was no easy task to get done. And the noble skin here is now for the rest of the coffin, so like the wood parts of it. It gives it like a grayish brown kind of look to it. And then for the curtains here, they went with like a really bright red. I decided to go with murder scene, which is a reddish purple, almost too dark actually. Kind of blends in, but when it hits the light just the right way, it does such a great job. And having the white and the gray and not white and black or white, gray, black is a little bit better when it comes to wanting to have a little bit more uniform and not a ton of shading. You know, it's there because speed paints do create shading anyways when they get into the recesses and so on. So anyways, I don't know, I hope this is gonna be a longer video than usual. Of course, I've cut out and edited so much, so there's some parts where I'm gonna say what I painted quickly. But the next part is the ghost juice, and if you haven't seen the video on that, I will put a link that it's going to pop up right about now, and you can go watch that video from, I think it's Tabletop Minions is his name, and he shows you the real ghost juice. And so I decided to call it that. This is the pastel sea foam on the 3 ghosts that are like chasing this thing, or are they holding on to this thing? By the way, I don't know lore much. I didn't read the lore of the Nighthaunts. I just find it awesomely cool, just like the vampires are cool. All the undead stuff or the dead stuff in Age of Sigmar to me is like the cooler stuff, and I would collect them all just to paint them, not even use them as armies. But my Nighthaunt is probably going to be an army, and my Soulblight Gravelords are probably going to be an army. I'm using mummified grime now to do the outer parts of the wheels, sort of like more like a dirtier non-metallic look to the wood of those wheels. And now here comes one of the longer parts as well, is the horses. And now the horses have a nice ghastly or ghostly trail that leads underneath them. And what I liked is I decided to do this deep blue here and really push it into all of it. But however, I left some of these ghostly vapors on the wheels alone, and I only dry brushed on the legs colors onto them after. And I should have done that with the vapors coming off the horses and going underneath the carriage as well. I think it would have made them pop more, would have made them more ghostly. So if you are following along with this and you've never painted the Black Coach before, or you've seen other people, I hope my video is different, and I hope that as showing you that you can paint beautiful miniatures or bigatures in this case really easily and not get overwhelmed by it. I loved painting this so much. I mean, my wife was just amazing to let me work on this for such a long time too. It kind of gave me a break of all the other crazy life stuff going on. But it was just so much fun to paint, sit here, have some music in the background playing, or having a movie playing as well. Just having a blast painting this and learning as I go that I can push my limits a bit more when it comes to painting a miniature. I can test new stuff. I can try different methods. I can have different kinds of paints. And this is where we're going to start really making these ghost horses really pop, is with the deep azure color. It's not even in the same triad here of the deep blue ocean one, or the deep ocean blue. And it's just pushing it to the next level. It's like a ghostly, nice greenish ghostly. Kind of reminds me of the Nighthaunt Gloom a bit in the shade, or the technical paint it used to be. I think it's a contrast paint now for Citadel. Kind of reminds me of that, this deep azure. And doing a dry brush over it and then letting it dry. But you can see now I'm doing it over the white parts that are on those wheels, on the spokes and all that, like I keep calling it ghastly, ghostly vapors coming off the wheels and all that. And I think having these dry brushed on after really makes them pop a little bit more, makes them more ethereal. you know, more undead-like, more ghostly. I don't know what to call it, but see, that's what I'm saying, is that those vapors underneath the horses into the carriage and all that should have stayed white, and I think it would have just made them pop more and all that. But I mean, next though is the marine mist, which is an even lighter greenish bluish color. Very awesome. I didn't even clean off my dry brush for this. I just went right back in there because the dry brush gets dry enough. And then I actually still hadn't cleaned my dry brush and used the matte white, put it on the same brush, and went and did all those little ghosts on top, and it really finished off the ghost juice for those 3 on the back of the caboose there, back of the chariot. And then I came in and did the hairs of the horses with the plasma coil glow. It is a blue fluorescent color kind of thing in their effects range of the war paints fanatics. It's not superb, but I like it because it does something different. The only problem is it's a bit shiny compared to the rest of the matte paints, so it looks a little bit odd there. And I changed the color of the lanterns here. I decided to go with the blue instead. I think they had green. On the artwork, there was a lot of, I think, green on the horses and a lot more green on the ghostly vapors. I think even the driver, the ghosts, were more green. I really changed. I went with the bluish color here, sort of following what I wanted to do with some of the other ones. Now I'm using the Thunderbird blue speed paint on the driver. Now you get 2 choices. This is the Cairn Wraith, which is kind of interesting because the Cairn Wraith is also a separate character in the Nighthaunt army. He's another hero that you can use. But he looks similar to this guy that's driving this here. And he's got a nice big sight. He's got the whip. So I found he had a big helmet that reminded me of the Witch King of Angmar from Lord of the Rings. So I found this was cooler. Now some other people have taken the other version, the other one that you can do. I built him up and everything and glued him to a part on the front of the horses. I was actually going to glue him on one of the headstones. So since I still have him, since he's separate, I might paint him up and try and get him added on to this. Maybe. I'll see if I want to do it or not. What do you guys think? Comment down below what you guys think I should do, if I should add that little ghost on or not. Just have a little extra oomph to this miniature, even though there's so much oomph going on. By the way, I will not show you guys the whole basing process. I did a lot of basing. As you can see, there's crackle paint in there. I had some green stuff world tombstones, or some tombstones that came with the miniature itself, but I really wanted to add some more to it. I added some skulls as well on the ground around the areas. I put them into the thick mud that was on the ground. That's the texture paint I used. And then I'm going to come back with a dry brush at the end and just clean it all up, make it look real nice. And that's what you see in the final product. And add some Gamer's Grass Alien Soil Tufts, I think it's called. And that's what gives them like it's a black and green, like fluorescent green. And I find it matches well. And that's going to be the color of the grasses in my army. So all the tufts are going to be using the same green ones. And that's going to be really cool and really fun to have, especially when you're on a table and you have an army. You want it to be a little bit more uniform, but you also want to give it your own flair to it. And I think I did just that with this black coach here. Brazen copper was used for the metal rods here, acting as what do you call the shock system on the chariot here. It made me think of older cars, like the older times when I remember seeing that. It looked like it was like plates of metal, but like copper, or like you know, I think that's stronger. It's or maybe more able to bend more because of the heat friction and stuff like that. So I just want to have a little bit of, you know, history in there too as well. Then I came back to the driver here and used some Night Sky and dab that on there. Again, War Paints Fanatics, if you guys have not used them, please go buy some, go try some. They are amazing paints. They're in dropper bottles, number one, so they won't dry out as much as these other competitors out there. There's a lot of them in dropper bottles, and you know, some people say you don't need to use just one tin coat, you need to use a couple. You know, you got other companies out there that are supposedly really good, but are a little too watered down. These I just find have the best consistency out of the pot. You can add a little bit of water, you can add a little bit of medium, you can add some retarders, some, you know, to make them wetter longer, you can dry them up faster, you can wet blend them easier. I just love how they cover it, and it just glides onto the miniature off your brush. No matter what brush I'm using. Okay, some of the other brushes I've kind of started to wreck them with the speed paints because the paint goes more up the brush inside the bristles, and it can actually do that to them. Whereas I bought myself some other brushes that are a little bit more detail oriented, a little bit thicker, a little bit bigger, also a little bit smaller, just to be able to get exactly what I want. And this is where I actually took my smaller brush and started with the rough iron, but I switched brushes after. I'm like, okay, I need a bigger brush because this is going to take me forever. I'm doing all the nice design grate on top of the hearse here, and I'm going to do all the inside as well. I'm also going to do the poles that are holding this up that look like candlesticks, which is amazing. Getting inside as well, and I think again I might have missed some, and I think this is where, if I did miss a lot of parts, it would be in this area here, because it was harder to get into all the little recesses, all the corners, all the sides. I tried my best when I was on top to get everything painted up and inside and outside and all that, but anyways, it still looks fantastic when the light hits it. There's a nice shine to certain areas. You know, it's not all wood, which is good. It blends into those drapes that I've got that murder scene purple on, a purplish red. I think it does a good job on it. And I also use the rough iron on some other little ornamental parts on this, including that like skull face on the side here. I use it for all the brackets that are holding all the wood. I use it for the harnesses in front, some parts of the harnesses on the horses. I use it on just a few little areas. I'm not going to show you exactly everywhere I use it, but it's on little areas. So I'm just showing you quickly, and then I come back and I finish off camera, because one, my camera was starting to heat up using so much recording time on this thing, and I was killing the battery constantly, and I forgot to plug it in. So anyways, the next part of metal I'm using here is death metal, which is kind of ironic that I'm using death metal on a dead character. And I'm using this for underneath the chair where the driver is. I'm using this for his scythe. I'm using it for the cup. I'm using it, that one of the ghosts is holding. I'm using for the sword of the hilt and all that the one of the ghosts is holding as well. And you're going to use it for all around the tires or the wheels as well. So all the spokes are going to be done like that. So just showing you quickly here what I was using it all for the scythe as well. I think I mentioned that. And then once I got all that done, again I did that all off camera, but you can see what it looks like the finished product right now. I'm using matte black for their harness straps. I didn't want to go brown or whatever. I wanted to go black so that they just blend into the horse a bit more, give them more of like a ghostly, shadowy style of creature. And guess what, folks? We're coming on the end here. This is the last paint I'm going to be using on the miniature, and just putting it onto the whip, making it look like it's a spectral whip. It looks really amazing. So let's just take a quick look again. Here's from one side. There's the base, and you can see what I did to it. Made the ground crackle, made it look like it's eerie, spooky. Just an amazing miniature. To be honest, I have to pat myself on the back for this, because like I said, it took me 2 days to paint this, and I was so grateful to have that time. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.